Hello and welcome to the workshop. Are you thinking about splurging $2,000 on a fancy laser cutter? Well, hold on, because I'm going to share 5 unexpected reasons why a $165 laser cutter may well be all you need. Like pretty much everyone, when I started my laser cutting journey, I didn't know anything about laser cutters. I had no experience. So instead of going for a high-end machine, I decided to start at the very bottom, and I'm going to show you the machine that I started with and the journey that got me from that extremely cheap machine to this, because I didn't want a machine like this sitting in the cupboard never being used. I wanted to know to begin with whether I was going to use a laser cutter on a regular basis. So let's cut over to the machine that I bought first, and I'll talk you through the costs. This is my very first laser. It's a Sculpfun S9. It's 5.5 watt diode laser, and in its cheapest form it comes in a 16-inch by 16-inch format. I bought the extended size, which we'll come on to in a moment. Now I've got some prices here. As of today, that's the end of May 2025, this machine from AliExpress is $166. I will put links to everything in the description below. Now you can use this machine as it comes with no accessories, and that's how I used it to begin with. I had it solely set up on my desk with a couple of sheets of aluminium foil, just like you'd use in the cooker, on the bench, and I experimented with it like that. Now that's using Laser GRBL, which is free software to run it from your laptop or a computer. I wouldn't recommend doing this in your lounge, for example, because it's going to give off some smoke. It is cutting, technically it's actually evaporating the wood, but you do get the same smells as cutting, and some of those smells, if you're cutting certain materials, could be toxic. So make sure you're working in a well ventilated area when you first begin. As I say, I began just with this machine as it is, none of this enclosure or fancy bits, just on the bench with some aluminium foil protecting the bench itself and hooked up to Laser GRBL. Now as I started to look, more and more people were recommending running Lightburn, which is a paid software, and it's the industry standard, I would say. So I did upgrade to that, which if you upgrade or buy a license for Lightburn as it stands now, that's $99. But if you look online, you can buy the machine and the Lightburn license you get a reduced rate on Lightburn. Now, as I say, we'll come in closer for some of these shots. I bought the larger footprint because I didn't know what I was going to cut or engrave, and I thought that the 16 by 16 was maybe a little bit restrictive in what I might want to do. So these rails are 37 inches by 16, so I can cut quite large pieces of wood, or I could engrave artwork, I can engrave photographs, so on and so on. The extension kit, so these two long two sides, and you get some extra, well, different wires so that the head can travel up and down. That was an extra $40. And after a while I realized that I wanted to buy air assist. Now that's this little pump in the corner, and some slightly different arrangement on the head of the laser itself, and the pump pumps air that comes through to the top of the laser, and that blows away soot and gives you a better cut. Obviously with the air as well, you get a better cut anyway. And after a while I thought, yes, that's what I'd like to do. And the air assist kit costs around $60 as of today. That's about $30 for the pump and $30 for the tubing and the metal head that fits to the laser. I also bought a honeycomb bed, and how well you can see that, I will put in some photographs of this. And this honeycomb, it fits all the way around and holds work pieces off of the bench itself. You can see I've still got aluminium foil underneath here, and then what I did was I got a piece of 3mm MDF and I cut it so it exactly fits between these up stands here so it doesn't move, and then I laser cut out an A3 size so that I could drop pieces of A3 plywood in, and that would act as a registration so that every time I cut I knew that it was cutting in exactly the same place. And then I went on, finally I fitted an inline fan. This is a 100mm 4-inch inline fan that I bought from Amazon for about $30, and there were a few accessories. So I've got an aluminium flexible hose here. I've got a duct adapter that fits to the side of the enclosure, and I've got a 100mm pipe here that just goes up into the loft. It's not vented out. I don't use the loft area up above, and that takes the fumes, smoke, call it what you like, up and out into a different area. I have previously made a video about the enclosure. This is just a coffee table that I got from Amazon Marketplace. I took the top off and I used less than $50 worth of, I think this is around 2mm, it's less than 1/8 of an inch plexiglass. That's only on the top and the 3 sides. There are gaps at the back so the air can be drawn in via the fan and out, so that as it extracts the air, more air is being drawn in. And I've just held these pieces of plexiglass on with rare earth magnets. They're just 10mm by 3mm, so they're around a 1/2 inch by 1/8, something like that, rare earth magnets. So these just clip on like so, magnetic. So that's how I got into it. I was being nosy, basically. I didn't know that I was going to use a laser much. I was in fact building a CNC machine. So the first reason that I discovered was that these machines are exceptionally cheap. I mean, for $166 you can start laser cutting with no extra expense, just straight out the box with laser GRBL, and you're off to the races. And then if, like me, you find yourself using it quite a lot, you can start making upgrades like air assist, extraction, and an enclosure. But entry level wise, it's very cheap. Now, while we're on the thing of cost, I see some people talking about ROI, return on investment, with lasers, and I don't know why they do that, because no other tool that I've got in my shop does anybody ever talk about return on investment. When I spent the best part of $600 or more on a Festool track saw, it never occurred to me about return on investment. Well, the same with, I've got a Festool sander and some other kit, but anything I've got in the workshop, nobody ever talks about that. But anyway, $166, your investment is not going to kill you, and even if you end up not using it, you could probably get at least half your money back on eBay or Facebook Marketplace by selling it as almost new. So I got it with no intentions other than it was cheap. And I started making all sorts of things. I started off cutting paper and making sort of artwork like this. I actually saw these designs online and just copied them. I haven't sold them or anything, I was just experimenting with what I could do. My wife designs and makes socks, so this is called a sock blocker. For the first time when socks are washed, in order for them to hold their shape, you put them over this when they're still wet and they dry into the right shape. I know, sad but true. And then I made these boxes for her because she was spinning and dyeing her own wool. These little bobbins are just from 3mm MDF. They fit into a sort of comb shape. And I also made the box. Now this was made entirely on this machine. This is 9mm plywood. Now it doesn't cut it in one pass. You have to have multiple passes, but this machine made everything in this box. It made this box and all the stuff in it. I also cut some acrylic, although diode lasers are a little bit tricky with that. But I did find I made quite a lot of different coaster designs. Now you're not going to get rich making coasters, and if you're trying to sell them online, there are possibly hundreds of people doing that on Etsy. But if you're making things with an eye to selling them, then local craft fairs, I doubt if there are going to be many people selling coasters and the other sorts of things. You can buy lots of designs on Etsy for exceptionally cheap. And that's one way of getting off and running. If you'd like more information on the enclosure build, I have a video that I made on that, and you can see that up here by clicking that card. So I found I was using this machine a lot. What I did notice was, so the first thing was cost. The second thing was it's an exceptionally quiet machine. I was building a CNC, as I said, where there, you know, you've got a router running, I don't know how many RPM, it's screaming all day long. You know, that's ear defenders on all day long. Don't need ear defenders with this running, or even with the other machine. They're both relatively quiet. The third thing that I noticed is that what I was blown away with really was its accuracy. This thing is so accurate. So, you know, down to less than 0.5 millimeter, in fact fractions of 0.5 millimeter accuracy with this. So that's the third thing that blew me away. The fourth thing was the repeatability. When I was making coasters, putting an A3 sheet or larger of 3 or 6mm ply, letting it cut, and then I could put in the piece that they were cut out of would stay in there. I'd take the coasters out and turn them over, and I could etch them on the other side, engrave them on the other side. And I had double-sided coasters. Yeah, the accuracy is absolutely unbelievable. So that was the fourth thing that blew me away. And you know, this is still, we're talking about $166 machine. It can start you a business, no doubt about it. There are lots and lots of videos online, no shortage of things to make. Another advantage of having it is that I started, instead of spending a lot of money at Christmas and birthdays buying things for people, I could make things for people, especially the grandchildren. I've made acrylic lights, I've made wall signs for their bedrooms, I've made things for my daughter and her husband, made things for my wife, quite a lot of things for my wife. And obviously that's a lot cheaper, and it has the added bonus of being handmade. Or certainly there's more thought gone into it than me logging on to Amazon and just buying something. Now we'll go back and talk about the other machine, and then we'll wrap up about the main reason that I recommend that people buy a laser engraver, a laser cutter, because that's the thing that I found over a period of time that I think is the biggest benefit. Now the reason that I went from this machine to that machine was purely the speed. This will cut and make anything that I've ever made on the other machine. It's just that this is slower and has to do multiple passes to cut through, say, 6 or 9mm ply. It will cut both of those materials, but it is a little bit slow in comparison with the other machine. So let's cut over to the other machine. I'll talk a little bit about that and then tell you the main reason why I suggest people get a laser cutter in their workshop. Let's talk a little bit about this machine. This is a Geeky Cloud. It's a CO2 laser. It's 50 watts, so it's considerably more powerful than the other setup that I had before, and it cuts much faster, which was the main driving reason that I bought it. It comes pretty much with everything you need, including it's got a built-in fan in the machine, and it also comes with a large inline fan, which I've got over on the wall. I'll show a photograph of that. So it takes all of the smoke straight out of the window. It came with, I think it came with a spare lens, and it also came with a pack of materials, which include sort of 5 sheets of 3mm basswood, 5 sheets of cardboard, 5 sheets of, I think, 3mm acrylic, and 5 sheets of MDF. So you've got a bit of a chance of setting up various tests and actually even making some things with what comes with it. That wasn't the driving force behind it. As I say, the primary goal or reason that I got this machine was because of its increased speed. I haven't had any issues with it, touch wood. I clean it at least once a week. Especially if I'm using it a lot, I'll clean it twice a week. And that operation only takes maybe 5 minutes. So that's the reason. So let's talk about the most unexpected benefit of having a laser cutter that I personally, from my experience, have found, and that's productivity. This machine, or the other machine, is working while I'm in the workshop doing other things. So it's only my time of putting something in and pressing start, and then it's often doing things while I'm either making stuff, cutting stuff up at the table saw, making a mess somewhere, or clearing up a mess even. This machine is like having somebody else working for you in the workshop, except you don't have to pay them, and the work is incredibly accurate and quiet and repeatable. That's the main bonus. My productivity is through the roof because this is making something while I'm doing something else. Now, you can't leave these machines. If something was to go wrong, they could in fact burn your workshop down. So, don't leave them. And even I had a smoke alarm in the workshop. I took it down because I didn't want to give myself the excuse of, oh, well, I'll just nip out and do something, because I've seen videos and photos online people's workshops, or even their workshop and houses where they're attached, has burnt to the ground because something has gone wrong with the laser. So don't leave them. So just to recap, they're cheap to start with. $166 gets you up and running and to the races. If you don't like it, you can sell it. Secondly, they're very quiet. Thirdly, they're incredibly accurate. Fourthly, the repeatability is just spot on. And lastly, and in my opinion the most important, is your productivity will go through the roof. It's literally like you've got somebody else working in the workshop for you, except they don't complain or need tea breaks. So that sort of wraps it up. If you found this video useful, please like and subscribe. It makes a massive help to the channel. If you have any comments or questions, please drop them below. I'll answer them all. If you decide to get a machine, no matter what type, then please let me know how you get on. Love to inspire people. I mean, I've been inspired just by what for me was an impulse buy. It came into my feed, I saw it was cheap, I thought, well, what the hell, and I'll buy it. And now here we are 3 years later, 4 years later, and I use laser cutters virtually every day. Couldn't recommend them more. Okay, well, I've been Alan, you've been watching I'll see you in the next video.